Cybersecurity, on the offense. About this course. Welcome to the Cybersecurity, on the offense course. In this course, you'll learn about the offensive side of cybersecurity. You'll discover the main types of threat actor or cyber attacker groups and their motivations, including money. You'll explore cyber attacks in detail, including the types of attacks and the techniques for planning attacks. You'll also examine several high-profile case studies of cyber attacks that demonstrate the large impact that such attacks can have. Learning objectives. After completing this course, you should be able to contrast the 5 main threat actor groups based on their profiles and characteristics. Describe common types of cyber attacks. Explain the overall structure of a typical cyber attack outlined in the cyber kill chain framework. Identify cyber attacker tactics and techniques by using the MITRE ATT&CK matrix. Explain key elements of the cybercrime ecosystem. Describe common social engineering techniques. Describe open source intelligence, OSINT, and standard sources that cyber attackers use. Explain the purpose of and information provided by typical technical scanning techniques. Perform network reconnaissance by using network scanning tools. List the details and lessons learned from several high-profile cyber attacks. About this module. Module 1. Threat Actor Groups. Introduction. Cybersecurity professionals often use the term threat actor instead of attacker. An attacker, or cyber attacker, is someone who tries to bypass system or network security without authorization for malicious purposes. A threat actor, or malicious actor, is an entity that poses a cybersecurity threat. Examples of such entities include people, groups, or organizations. Simply put, a threat actor is a potential attacker. They might not have tried to attack yet, but they intend to do so. While the terms attacker and threat actor have similar meanings, threat actor emphasizes the potential threat that the entity poses. Cybersecurity professionals often discuss threat actors in terms of threat actor groups. These groups vary substantially in motivation, resources, and techniques. In this module, you'll learn about the 5 main threat actor groups. Script kiddie, hacktivist, criminal gang, nation-state hacker, malicious insider. Learning objectives. After completing this module, you should be able to contrast the 5 main threat actor groups based on their profiles and characteristics. Script kiddie. Script kiddies are the least advanced group. A script kiddie, or novice hacker, is someone who uses programs, often basic hacking tools, without truly understanding what is happening behind the scenes. Script kiddies typically rely on automated programs and techniques that more experienced hackers create. But they don't understand the concepts underlying how these tools work. And though they might display a basic understanding of networking and programming, they often lack technical skills, patience, or strategic intent. Overview of script kiddie characteristics. In practice, this demographic is mostly teenagers or young adults who are self-taught through forums, videos, and experimentation. For many script kiddies, the main motivations for their hacking efforts are reputation, status in the eyes of the hacking community, entertainment, or settling grudges. From a resourcing standpoint, script kiddies rely on off-the-shelf penetration testing tools and publicly available exploits. Script kiddies use artificial intelligence tools, such as chatbots, to create malicious scripts for them. In most cases, script kiddies are very underfunded and display little tradecraft knowledge. From a defensive standpoint, organizations must ensure that their patching schedule is effective. If someone develops an easy exploit, attackers will probably deploy it. Defenses must be formidable enough to ensure that another target appears easier, which should be a sufficient deterrent. Penetration testing is a type of security testing that simulates real hacking techniques to find vulnerabilities that attackers can exploit. Profile of a script kiddie. Who are they? Self-taught individuals, typically teenagers. What is their objective? Seek reputation enhancement or attack for fun. What resources do they have? Little funding, little or no technical expertise, and assistance, and might use free tools written by others. How do you protect against them? Ensure patching schedule is effective and basic perimeter defenses are up to date. Hacktivist. The term hacktivist combines hacker and activist. Hacktivists seek political or economic change and use hacking as a means to achieve it. Overview of hacktivist characteristics. The defining attribute of hacktivists is that they are driven by ideological reasons. Various types of people make up hacktivist groups. Like script kiddie groups, hacktivist groups include impressionable amateurs. But when causes align on a highly topical issue, hacktivists are joined by more experienced members within the IT security community. The aims of hacktivist groups define their motivations. Their aims vary enormously. Generally, a group's aim involves supporting one cause that members believe in, such as a side in a Middle East conflict or political activities. Hacktivists use a range of basic tools that can be very effective at scale. Denial of service, DOS, programs are a notable example in this area. A single script kiddie poses little threat. But hundreds of them united by a common motive launching parallel attacks can be significantly more challenging to deal with. The most famous example of this group is the hacking collective called Anonymous, opens in a new tab. Anonymous is a decentralized international hacktivist group known for cyberattacks against corporations and governments. If an organization does business in a sensitive area, such as animal testing or political causes, then it might come under a sustained attack from hacktivists. Such organizations must be astute. Having only good defenses in place is not enough to deter all attacks, so organizations should have a plan and methods to cope with a sustained attack. Profile of a hacktivist. Who are they? Driven idealists forming loose coalitions. What is their objective? Want to bring about a change. What resources do they have? Operate at scale with varying tools, and the biggest attribute is size. How do you protect against them? Ensure defenses can cope with an extended disruptive attack. Criminal gang. As long as there is easy money to make, criminals will be a problem. The internet has introduced a new method for criminals to prey on victims with an unprecedented scale, range, and ease. Rather than run risks in person, aspiring criminals can send millions of infected emails from halfway around the world and secure a ransom from a victim before transferring funds into cryptocurrencies to evade conventional policing methods. Capturing these criminals is extremely taxing. And because of international laws, securing a prosecution is nearly impossible. Sadly, most criminals are aware of these facts. Overview of criminal gang characteristics. Criminal gangs are the fastest growing threat actor group. Within the group are a range of activities. Consider the following examples. Gangs can run ransomware attacks, where victims must pay to regain access to their resources. Gangs can commit conventional theft of customer data or intellectual property. Being a cybercriminal is a full-time and potentially lucrative job. Gangs can range from a few people to multinational gangs with hundreds of members. You'll often find specialists within each gang, and they can trade information on the dark web. Consequently, criminal gangs are quite advanced and well organized. From a resourcing standpoint, criminal gangs provide cybercrime services and products. For example, gangs sell malicious software that steals personal information for financial gain. From a financial perspective, the criminals will always adopt the quickest and easiest get-rich-quick scheme. To protect against a criminal gang, organizations should use effective defenses for critical assets. Discovering ransomware on an employee's laptop might cause inconvenience to the company. But discovering ransomware on a production server can be devastating. The dark web is a subset of the internet comprised of websites accessible only through specialized web browsers. Activity on these sites is encrypted, private, and anonymous, making the dark web a popular hub for cybercriminals. However, some people use the dark web for legitimate reasons, such as political activists who use it to communicate anonymously to avoid government persecution. Profile of a criminal gang. Who are they? Groups of people in national and international teams. What is their objective? Make money. What resources do they have? A broad range of tools and equipment bought and traded on the dark web. How do you protect against them? Have a fully trained workforce with protections around critical assets and backups. Nation-state hacker. Nation-state attackers receive the most media attention of all threat actor groups, perhaps unduly. Many military organizations worldwide consider cyberspace a fifth sphere of conflict alongside sea, land, air, and space. And many nations have demonstrated the ability to project power across national borders to a great and expanding variety of consequences. Overview of nation-state hacker characteristics. The role of nation-state hackers is to provide a strategic advantage to their respective countries. Advantages can range from reconnaissance and information collection, such as traditional spying or signals intelligence, to information subversion and manipulation. Members of these organizations are well educated or trained and cover a range of backgrounds. They work full-time and typically work at the forefront of their respective fields. Their motivations typically align closely with political or strategic objectives. A recent example is the Russian activities concerning the 2016 U.S. presidential election. The aim was to interfere with the election and increase political and social discord. From a resourcing standpoint, nation-state hackers can access advanced research, dedicated infrastructure teams, and tremendous political support. Nation-state hackers are now using advanced artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning, ML, tools to automate their attacks, making them more sophisticated and harder to detect. Also, with the rise of Internet of Things, IoT, devices, nation-state hackers have many more targets to attack. Protection against determined nation-state hackers is highly challenging for organizations. Doing so effectively requires fully capable and coordinated security defenses. Profile of a nation-state hacker. Who are they? Highly trained and educated specialists. What is their objective? Follow strategic, multi-year plans on a wide range of issues. What resources do they have? Huge budgets, advanced tools, and advanced research. How do you protect against them? Incredibly difficult, need fully coordinated defenses around every aspect of the organization. Malicious insider. Malicious insiders are arguably the most concerning threat actor group. An insider is someone authorized to access an organizational resource, such as a system or data. A malicious insider intends to use that access to harm that resource or organization. Overview of insider threat characteristics. Some insiders have a negative mindset toward the organization from the start. Others become resentful over time. Motivations vary greatly and can cover just about everything. Financial interests and bitterness are two of the most common motivations. Other motivations include notoriety or fame. Insiders rarely rely on technical skills to attack. Some might use social engineering, which involves manipulating others into divulging confidential information usable for fraudulent purposes, such as gaining system access. But typically, insiders use their own corporate access and permissions. One common insider threat is an employee being extorted into giving someone access to the employee's corporate accounts. Another common example is a disgruntled employee who steals corporate secrets before being fired. Perhaps the most famous insider attack of all time was Edward Snowden, who stole many National Security Agency, NSA, files from the US before giving them to WikiLeaks. Defense against insider threats is best achieved by vetting employees, managing effectively, and applying technical controls. Resorting to technical controls might seem like too easy of a solution for companies, but it frequently fails because they are trying to stop users who are familiar with the system. Often, many warning signs precede an inside attack. Some examples of warning signs that someone is planning an attack include working alone, expressing resentment, producing lower quality work, or doing unexplained activities. Identifying these signs can help prevent an attack. Profile of an insider threat. Who are they? Staff members who work against an organization's interests, either deliberately or accidentally. What is their objective? Seek revenge or make money. What resources do they have? No budget or resources are required, use granted access. How do you protect against them? Monitor staff carefully and ensure the organization's culture is effective to prevent issues. Note, these descriptions of the types of cyber attackers are not always precise. In operations, hacktivists might recruit script kiddies, and nation-state hackers might recruit criminal gangs. Also, some cyber attackers disguise their work to appear less advanced than they are. These facts can make attributing threats to the correct party difficult. Offensive security researcher. You've learned about 5 common types of cyber attackers who have personal motivations or threatening, often illegal motivations. But not all hackers hack for malicious purposes. Offensive security researchers choose to use and monetize their skill set for good rather than criminal or exploitative activity. Often called ethical hackers, they take on a hacker mindset to use the same methods as real-life attackers but with the goal of testing and fortifying systems to help clients and consumers be better protected from the real incident. Here are 2 leading cybersecurity experts, Brian Krebs and Georgia Weidman. Both use their skill sets to offer organizations worldwide valuable and often highly paid advice and knowledge. Brian Krebs. Brian is a celebrated journalist who investigates cybercrime. He started his career as a reporter for The Washington Post, where he wrote for the Security Fix blog from 1995 to 2009 and pushed the boundaries of cybersecurity reporting. Today, he owns the hugely popular blog Krebs on Security, opens in a new tab, and was named 2019's Cybersecurity Person of the Year, opens in a new tab, by CISO Mag. Fun fact, Brian's interest in cybersecurity started after a Chinese hacking group took his entire home network captive. Georgia Weidman. Georgia is a serial entrepreneur in the cybersecurity space and has worked as a penetration tester, security researcher, speaker, trainer, and author. She has gained a large following through her work in smartphone exploitation and mobile device security as the founder and CTO of Shavira, opens in a new tab. Fun fact, Georgia has spoken and trained audiences worldwide at venues such as the NSA, West Point, and Black Hat. About this module. Module 2. Types of cyber attacks. Introduction. Attackers can use various methods to enter and exploit systems. Some attacks target vulnerabilities in technology. Others exploit vulnerabilities in humans, specifically the flawed ways in which humans interact with systems. In this module, you'll explore some of the most common types of cyber attacks. Denial of service, DOS, attack. Distributed denial of service, DDoS, attack. Phishing. Spear phishing. Malware. Man in the middle, MITM, attack. Domain name system, DNS, attack. Learning objectives. After completing this module, you should be able to describe common types of cyber attacks. List ways that artificial intelligence, AI, can enhance the structure and sophistication of cyber attacks. Examine cyber threat real-time maps. Denial of service, DOS, attack. A denial of service, DOS, attack is any attack that causes a complete or partial system outage. DOS can occur when a person or system floods a website or online service with too much network traffic, much like a traffic jam on a road. This traffic overflow makes the website or service slow down or shut down completely, denying access to legitimate users. DOS can also occur when traffic consumes enough system resources to slow down or crash the system. Example: an attacker uses a billion laughs attack, also known as an XML bomb, where the attacker creates a small, seemingly harmless piece of code in an extensible markup language, XML, document. The attacker then submits this document to the target organization's system. When the system processes the code continually replicates. The replications consume more and more system resources, eventually slowing down or even crashing the system. Distributed denial of service, DDoS, attack. A distributed denial of service, DDoS, attack is an attack that comes from multiple sources simultaneously to cause a complete or partial system outage. To perform DDoS attacks, attackers use bots. A bot, or zombie, is an internet-connected device infected with malware that enables the attacker to control the device remotely. For DDoS attacks, attackers manipulate multiple bots under the same instance, forming a network of bots called a botnet. A botnet can include hundreds or even thousands of bots, each sending data or requesting access from the target server simultaneously. This sudden traffic surge overwhelms the server, causing a denial of service to its users. Attackers can use AI to analyze patterns and predict the optimal number of bots needed to effectively overwhelm a target's server without wasting resources. AI also helps attackers monitor each bot's performance in real time to maximize effectiveness. Example: an attacker can send many page requests to a web server over a brief period, overloading the server. Similarly, spikes in user demand on ticket sale websites can overload systems. Phishing. Phishing is the practice of sending messages, seemingly from a trusted source, to trick users into taking a specific action. It combines social engineering and technical trickery. After opening the message, unsuspecting users might install malware, enable remote access, or divulge confidential information. Example: an attacker might send an email with a file attachment or link to a fake website. When the recipient clicks the attachment or link, they unwittingly install malware on their computer. Spear phishing. Spear phishing is a type of phishing that targets a specific person, group, or organization. Attackers take time to research targets. Attackers use this research to create personal and relevant messages, making them more effective. Some attackers use AI to automate the email creation process. They generate personalized and convincing emails that are more likely to deceive users into revealing sensitive information. Example: an attacker collects a target's details from social media and then calls the target, pretending to be a bank representative. The attacker claims that the target's account is compromised and asks them to transfer money to a safe bank account. The attack is convincing because the attacker uses legitimate knowledge about the client. Malware. Malware is a catch-all term for malicious software. Malware is software designed to harm data or systems without the user's informed consent. It often triggers secretly when a user runs a program or downloads a file. This user action is often unintentional. Once active, malware can block access to data and programs, steal information, and make systems inoperable. AI can help malware adapt to evade detection, enabling them to cause more damage within an infected system. Example: many types of malware exist and often, the malware's name indicates its function. For example, keyloggers capture a victim's keystrokes, and ransomware holds a victim's files captive in exchange for a ransom payment. Man-in-the-middle, MITM, attack. A man-in-the-middle, MITM, attack occurs when attackers insert themselves into communications between a client and server. With this attack, attackers can view everything that both sides send and receive. Example: an attacker might set up a free Wi-Fi hotspot in a popular public location. If someone connects to that network, the attacker can examine their communications. In turn, the attacker can redirect the victim to a fake login screen or insert advertisements over web pages. Domain Name System, DNS, attack. The Domain Name System, DNS, is one of the core protocols used on the Internet. With the DNS protocol, a computer can resolve a domain to an IP address. For example, imagine a user types bmw.com into a browser's search bar and then presses enter. The DNS protocol resolves this domain name to the IP address for the main BMW website, taking the user to the site. This function is convenient because domain names are far easier to remember than IP addresses. A DNS attack targets the DNS by manipulating or disrupting the resolution of domain names and possibly redirecting users or hindering access to websites. It involves tactics such as domain hijacking and cache poisoning. Example: attackers associated with the Roaming Mantis criminal gang have compromised wireless routers so that entering the URL for a valid website redirects the user to a malicious website. This site delivers malware called ROBA to the user's device. When the device is infected, the attackers can use it as a bot, and then use it to compromise other wireless routers. Structured Query Language, SQL, Injection. Structured Query Language, SQL, is a programming language for accessing, managing, and querying databases. SQL injection is the placement of malicious code in SQL queries, usually via web page input. With a successful attack, attackers can run common commands, including commands to delete the database itself. SQL injection is one of the most common web hacking techniques. Attackers can use AI to automate the process of discovering and exploiting vulnerabilities in a database's security. Example: in the UK, two teenagers managed to target TalkTalk's website in 2015. Using SQL injection, they stole hundreds of thousands of customer records from a database that was remotely accessible. AI in cyberattacks. Attackers are increasingly turning to AI. With AI, attackers can enhance the structure and sophistication of their attacks in several ways. Task automation. AI can automate repetitive tasks, enabling attackers to launch attacks at a speed and scale otherwise impossible. For example, AI can automate the creation and dissemination of phishing emails, increasing the likelihood of success. Detection evasion. AI can help attackers create malware that changes and adapts to evade detection by traditional antivirus solutions. To do so, attackers often use machine learning, ML, algorithms that can learn from each detection attempt and alter the malware's code to avoid future detections. Target identification. AI can help attackers identify optimal targets for attacks. Sophisticated algorithms can analyze vast amounts of data to identify vulnerable systems or high-value targets, thus increasing the effectiveness of attacks. Social engineering. Attackers can use AI technologies, such as deep learning, to enhance the effectiveness of social engineering attacks with convincing fake audio and video content. One notable example is deepfakes, which are fake images, videos, or audio created through deep learning. For example, an attacker might call a victim and use an audio deepfake to impersonate someone that the victim knows and trusts. AI has introduced a new challenge for cyber defense systems. The cybersecurity landscape must continually evolve, incorporating AI in its strategies to effectively counter these advanced threats. Takeaways about cyberattacks. You've learned about a few types of cyberattacks impacting people and organizations today. Note the following points about these examples. DDoS attacks on organizations are commonly reported in the news. Phishing attacks are the most effective on a personal basis. Malware attacks are increasing in number and constantly evolving. Activity: examine cyber threat real-time maps. In this activity, you'll examine real-time maps and statistical visualizations of cyber attacks worldwide. Access each site. It might take a moment to load. Check out the statistics and discover how many attacks are being documented across the globe right now. Task 1. Examine the Kaspersky Cyber Threat Real-Time Map. Access https://cybermap.kaspersky.com, opens in a new tab. If the site is blocked on your system, it might be because of your organization's firewall restrictions. 2. Navigate around the interactive world map to select and visit a specific country to view its latest data. 3. Find the most attacked countries. 4. Hover over each color-coded acronym to learn the type of threat or attack that it represents. For example, the acronym BAD is color-coded green and means botnet activity detection. Therefore, all green items on the map represent botnet activity. Note, you can change the language at the top of the web page. Task 2, examine the Fortinet threat map. Access https://threatmap.fortiguard.com, opens in a new tab. 2. View the attack details that scroll on the screen. 3. Determine where most attacks are happening right now. 4. The attack details list is a subset of data on ongoing attacks. The list identifies each attack's description, severity, and target location. 5. You can learn more about the map by selecting the following items. Select the question mark icon to view the legend of attack types displayed. Select the information icon to learn more about Fortinet and the Fortinet threat map. Task 3, examine the Bitdefender cyber threat real-time map. Access https://threatmap.bitdefender.com, opens in a new tab. 2. View the live attacks happening across the map for the selected country locations. 3. Check out the various instances of spam, threats, and attacks. 4. Notice that the interface lists several types of information about the attacks. The legend explains the meaning of each symbol on the map, such as attack, infection, or spam. The live attacks table lists each attack's time, description, type, country of origin, and country targeted. The locations table summarizes the countries targeted. What do you think? What countries face the most threats, and what types of threats are they? Sources: 1. Lakshmanan, Ravi. Roaming mantis spreading mobile malware that hijacks Wi-Fi routers' DNS settings, opens in a new tab. The Hacker News, January 20, 2023. About this module. Module 3. Structure of a cyber attack. Introduction. As computer systems change, so do the ways in which they can become compromised. For example, a specific type of malware might work only on a computer running an outdated version of a web browser. After the browser is updated with a security patch, attackers can't use the same malware attack. Even though cyber attack techniques have evolved with time and today they use AI capabilities, you can still examine the overall structure of a typical cyber attack. In this module, you'll learn about two methods that cybersecurity professionals use for this purpose: the Lockheed Martin Cyber Kill Chain Registered Framework and the MITRE ATT&CK matrix. Learning objectives. After completing this module, you should be able to explain the overall structure of a typical cyber attack outlined in the Cyber Kill Chain Framework. Apply the Cyber Kill Chain Framework to a realistic scenario. Identify cyber attacker tactics and techniques by using the MITRE ATT&CK matrix. Lockheed Martin Cyber Kill Chain Registered Framework. Lockheed Martin Corporation, opens in a new tab, is an American global aerospace, defense, security, and advanced technologies company. Researchers at Lockheed Martin identified parallels between the U.S. military concept of a kill chain, which refers to the structure of a military attack, and intrusions in digital networks. Here, the word chain refers to a series of steps attackers must take to infiltrate a system successfully. Cybersecurity professionals use this framework to understand and prevent cyber attacks. Each step of the chain represents a different stage of an attack, and the steps must occur in order because each step depends on the previous step's completion. With this framework, you can view the attack as a process, not a single event. Now, you'll examine the 7 steps in the Cyber Kill Chain Framework, opens in a new tab, to better understand a typical cyber attack sequence. Step 1, Reconnaissance. During this step, the attacker gathers information about the target. They can do so through probing digital servers, speaking with people close to the target, or just reading the news. Step 2, Weaponization. After identifying a specific vulnerability, the attacker designs a piece of malware to exploit it. This process can range from downloading a database sample, purchasing a tool from a third party, or developing something custom. Step 3, Delivery. The attacker must send the chosen malware to the target somehow. Despite more recent technological developments, email is still the most common delivery method. Other methods include website downloads and infected or modified USB flash drives. Step 4, Exploitation. When the target activates the malware by opening the infected attachment in the email or accessing the USB flash drive, the malware performs a series of instructed steps. This process varies considerably and depends on many details about the programs and operating system. This process is known as exploiting a vulnerability, and the software used to do it is known as exploit code or an exploit. Step 5, Installation. The malware attempts to get some element of persistence within the target system. It can do so by creating backdoors, such as through the following methods: creating new accounts, installing remote access programs, introducing new vulnerabilities into the system. These factors mean that even if the original vulnerability is patched, it is too late because the attacker can still access the system through the backdoors that the malware created. Step 6, Command and Control, C2. The attacker must establish a method to communicate with the compromised systems. By doing so, the attacker can send instructions and upgrades to the target and receive data back from the target. The attacker can establish communication through websites, direct connections, and even social media sites such as X. Step 7, Actions on Objectives. After all the previous steps are complete, the attacker can accomplish their objectives. For example, they might steal data, modify data, or destroy key system elements. MITRE ATT&CK Matrix. MITRE, opens in a new tab, is an American nonprofit organization that solves world problems with data-driven solutions. Its areas of focus include cyber threat information sharing and cyber resilience. MITRE collected a set of tactics, techniques, and procedures, TTP, that cyberattackers use. It used this research insight to develop ATT&CK, which stands for Adversarial Tactics, Techniques, and Common Knowledge. This acronym is pronounced as ATT&CK. MITRE created a matrix based on this collected knowledge to help organizations examine cyber attacks in a simplified form. The ATT&CK matrix is open and freely available to any person or organization. The following graphic shows an excerpt from the ATT&CK matrix. Access https://attack.mitre.org, opens in a new tab, to examine the entire matrix. Let's explore how to read the ATT&CK matrix. The column headers identify an attacker tactic, such as persistence. You can think of each tactic as an attacker's objective. The items listed for each column are the many techniques that the attacker can use to achieve the tactic or objective. You can select each technique to learn more about it. Example. Imagine the following cyber attack. An attacker wants to gain credentialed access, opens in a new tab, to a system. Credentialed access is the tactic. If the attacker identifies poor security mechanisms for logging into the system and discovers that no account lockouts are in use, they can use the brute force technique. Brute force, opens in a new tab, is one of many techniques for gaining credentialed access listed in the ATT&CK matrix. In this technique, the attacker runs a program that can try millions of username and password combinations until a successful one is identified. If the chosen technique fails, the attacker can switch to another technique and continue trying. Importance of understanding cyber attacks. Attackers can be persistent. Rarely do they give up after a single interruption to their attack. Think of a cyber attack as part of a longer campaign. Many attacks last months, with attackers spreading their influence and defenders trying to identify and stop them. Good defenders try to anticipate an attacker's next move. Frameworks such as the MITRE ATT&CK matrix help them to do so. The following scenario will help you explore the significance of these frameworks. Introduction. Consider this scenario. Janina, a cybersecurity professional, works for a major tech company. A data breach occurs. The intruder has gained access but hasn't fully achieved their objectives yet. Janina must determine the attacker's strategy and prevent further damage to the system. Step 1. Initial access. The first two tactics in the MITRE ATT&CK matrix are reconnaissance and resource development. Because the breach has already occurred, Janina starts her investigation with the next tactic, initial access, opens in a new tab. She identifies the initial breach point. Step 2. Phishing. Janina investigates the initial access further to discover the technique used. She determines that the attacker used the phishing, opens in a new tab, technique, which is listed as one of the techniques under initial access. Specifically, the attacker used spear phishing. They tailored their phishing email to a company executive, tricking this person into providing their login credentials. Step 3. Execution. Next, Janina turns to the MITRE ATT&CK matrix to predict the likely next steps of the attacker. She examines the tactic that follows initial access in the matrix, execution, opens in a new tab. She reads that at this stage, attackers use various types of commands and scripts to run malicious code on systems. As a cybersecurity professional, she knows that scripting is a common technique after spear phishing. Putting all this information together, Janina predicts that the attacker used scripts to automate their malicious operations and move further into the system. Step 4. Scripting. Janina immediately checks for signs of scripting in the system logs. She finds evidence that the attacker used a PowerShell script to perform malicious commands. This finding confirms her hypothesis that the attacker used scripts to move further into the system. Step 5. Persistence and privilege escalation. Having identified the attacker's current tactics and techniques, Janina uses the MITRE ATT&CK matrix to prepare for the next likely steps. She focuses on the persistence, opens in a new tab, and privilege escalation, opens in a new tab, tactics. These tactics typically follow execution. She counters the cyberattack with the mitigation strategies listed for both techniques. Conclusion. By anticipating the attacker's moves and using the matrix as a guide, Janina effectively countered the breach, limited damage, and protected the company's systems. What do you think? Now that you're familiar with the MITRE ATT&CK matrix, you'll explore it further to learn more. Access the MITRE ATT&CK matrix at https://attack.mitre.org, opens in a new tab. 2. Select the column headings to learn about a few tactics. 3. Choose one tactic that interests you, and then select it to explore it further. 4. Examine two techniques that attackers use to achieve your selected tactic. 5. Answer the following questions. A. Which tactic did you pick, and how would you explain it to someone unfamiliar with this topic? B. Which two techniques did you examine? What are the advantages of each technique, and is one technique easier to perform than the other? About this module. Module 4. Cybercrime Ecosystem. Introduction. Some cyberattackers are motivated by activism or national interest. However, making money is the biggest motivator for cybercrimes. In this module, you'll examine how cybercriminals make and use their illicit money. Learning objectives. After completing this module, you should be able to describe the cybercrime's underground ecosystem. Describe the three methods that cybercriminals use to make money. Explain the relationship between cryptocurrency and cybercrime. Summarize the 5 general steps in the cybercrime economy. Underground ecosystem. A vital element of the cybercrime economy is a robust and growing underground ecosystem with a vast, interconnected network of illegal platforms and forums. In this digital black market, cybercriminals buy, sell, and trade tools and stolen data. They also use this space to collaborate and train themselves and others. They can seek advice, learn new attack methods, and even hire skilled people to perform specific tasks. Like a traditional economy, specialism drives efficiency and allows criminals to focus on what they each do best. The underground ecosystem continually evolves, with new forums and platforms appearing as authorities shut down others. Its dynamic nature and global reach make it a challenging threat to cybersecurity efforts. Initial cash injection. So, with a marketplace set up, how do criminals make money? Well, with illegal tactics. They can use one of these three methods. Theft. The most direct method for cybercriminals to make money is trying to steal money from targets. They can do so by compromising accounts or banking systems, but the most common means is fraud or deception. These scams are often technical support scams or similar tricks aimed at persuading a victim to give away bank details, personal information, and other data usable for making money off the victim. Work for hire. Sometimes, criminals offer their services to carry out illegal tasks to regular people and organizations. In this model, the criminal does not take money from the victim. Instead, an organization or person pays them. A typical illegal task performed for hire is using a denial of service, DOS, attack to overload key parts of a service. For example, a criminal might offer an organization or person the ability to disable a competitor or rival. Another common task is stealing a competitor's intellectual property or destroying their databases. Extortion. Another way to make money is extortion. In this model, the criminal gains the ability to disrupt a victim by disabling key systems or threatening to divulge sensitive data. Extortion has become increasingly popular with the advent of ransomware. In a ransomware attack, a victim's key systems and files become encrypted, rendering them inoperable. To restore the systems and files, the victim is asked to pay money as ransom to receive the decryption key. Other extortion-themed approaches include threatening to divulge organization or customer data, such as embarrassing executive emails or customer databases. Cryptocurrency. You learn that in ransomware attacks, cybercriminals require victims to pay a ransom. Typically, victims must pay in the cybercriminals' preferred currency, cryptocurrency. But what exactly is cryptocurrency, and why do cybercriminals prefer it? Cryptocurrency is a digital or virtual currency that uses cryptography to secure financial transactions, control the creation of new currency units or coins, and verify asset transfers. Each cryptocurrency has its own rules and protocols, but they all operate on an emerging technology called blockchain. Blockchain is a distributed ledger that records all transactions across a computer network. The system encrypts each transaction, adds it to a block, and then adds that block to a chain of previous blocks. This process creates a permanent and transparent record of all transactions, making altering or manipulating the data difficult. One of the most well-known cryptocurrencies is Bitcoin. Introduced in 2009, Bitcoin paved the way for developing numerous other cryptocurrencies, often called altcoins. Cryptocurrency in cybercrime. Cryptocurrencies offer several advantages over traditional currencies, such as faster and cheaper transactions, increased privacy and security, and potential service for unbanked or underbanked individuals. But cryptocurrencies also pose risks, such as volatility in their value and challenges from regulations. The most relevant risk for cybersecurity is their potential use in illicit activities. Cybercriminals often use cryptocurrencies because the currency is anonymous and typically decentralized, meaning that it operates independently of a central authority, such as a government or bank. These features make tracing transactions difficult for law enforcement agencies. Cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, have become the primary currency of the dark web, where criminals trade illicit goods and services. Consider the following examples. In ransomware attacks, cybercriminals demand payment in Bitcoin because its anonymous nature masks the receiver's identity. In many money laundering schemes, cybercriminals use Bitcoin to erase the fund's illicit origins by moving money through virtually untraceable networks. The ecosystem in action. Now you know the monetary elements that drive cybercrime. But how do they all tie together? To answer that question, let's explore a hypothetical case study that illustrates the 5 general steps in the cybercrime economy. Introduction. In this scenario, you'll follow an attack campaign across its life cycle. Follow the money trail. Step 1. Design malware. In the first step, a criminal gang produces a piece of malware that records keystrokes and screens. Step 2. Attack victims. In the second step, the gang attacks multiple victims' accounts. It buys a list of known email addresses from another party and sends the malware as an email attachment. The malware aims to infect victims' machines, steal their banking logins and other passwords, and send these credentials to the gang. At this point, the gang's work is done. It has a list of banking logins and other credentials. Step 3. Withdraw money. In the third step, the gang tries to withdraw money from the accounts or sell the account logins to another gang to finish the process. Step 4. Involve money mules. In the fourth step, the gang tries to log in using the credentials and make transfers to money mules that they have previously worked with. Money mules are gullible or desperate individuals who have agreed to allow a stream of money through their accounts in exchange for a payment. Step 5. Use cryptocurrencies. In the fifth step, the gang finishes the process by forcing the mules to buy cryptocurrencies and then transfer them to the accounts that the gang controls. With this action, the campaign is also complete. If law enforcement investigates the crime, the trail often ends with only the money mule being traceable. Summary. That's the usual 5-step process in the cybercrime economy. The steps can vary from one attack campaign to the other, but this example illustrates the usual process. About this module. Module 5. Social engineering. Introduction. When you think of cybersecurity threats, you probably think of digital threats, such as malware, that exploit vulnerabilities in technology. But attackers can also exploit vulnerabilities in people to get what they want. In this module, you'll learn about social engineering and the techniques that attackers use to hack people, not technology. Learning objectives. After completing this module, you should be able to define social engineering. Explain the reasons that social engineering works. List key aspects of a good social engineering attack. List ways to defend against social engineering. Identify common signs of a phishing email. What is social engineering? Social engineering is the art of making someone do what you want them to do. It overlaps heavily with academic fields involving psychology, biology, and even mathematics. In cybersecurity, social engineering is the use of deception to manipulate individuals into divulging confidential or personal information for fraudulent purposes. Basically, how can someone trick another person into giving up something private? Social engineering attacks are the dark art of using social interactions to trick people into making security mistakes. Attackers can employ social engineering tactics in person, over the phone, or online through websites, email, and social media. When an attacker makes someone perform a certain action, the attacker can gain access to sensitive systems, steal assets, or advance a more complex attack. This notion of focusing on persuading or tricking people might sound unreliable. However, many case studies show that social engineering is an incredibly powerful technique. Example. Effective social engineering tactics can result in defrauding vulnerable people of their savings through scams and confidence tricks. For organizations with physical buildings, social engineering also includes tailgating, which is when a person enters a secure area without authorization by closely following an authorized person. Why social engineering works? Social engineering works because humans are imperfect. In short, attackers exploit people's propensity to take shortcuts and make quick decisions based on false promises. Let's explore the specific reasons why social engineering works so well. Human nature and social norms. Social engineering takes advantage of human psychology and our natural inclination to trust and help others. Attackers exploit social norms and expectations to manipulate people into divulging information or performing actions that they wouldn't perform otherwise. For example, an attacker might pose as a coworker in distress, urgently needing access to a particular system to meet a deadline. The target, driven by the desire to be helpful, provides the requested information without second-guessing the authenticity of the request. Trust and authority. Attackers often exploit people's trust in authority figures or institutions. They can gain credibility and deceive targets by impersonating someone in a position of power or using official-sounding language. For example, an employee might receive an email from someone claiming to be the company's chief executive officer, CEO. The supposed CEO demands immediate action on a sensitive issue, such as providing access to a client's records. Because the email seemingly comes from the top executive, the employee hastily complies without verifying the authenticity of the request. As a result, the employee provides confidential client data to the attacker. Emotional manipulation. Social engineering often uses emotions such as fear, curiosity, or excitement to influence decision-making. Attackers create a sense of urgency or exploit personal vulnerabilities to manipulate targets. For example, someone might receive a phone call from an attacker posing as a representative for the lottery. The attacker congratulates the person for winning the grand prize. The excitement and lure of a large monetary reward cloud the victim's judgment. In turn, they share their bank account information to ensure the lottery company can transfer the supposed prize into their account. Lack of awareness. Social engineering works well on people less informed about common security and potential risks. And people unfamiliar with social engineering tactics are especially susceptible to manipulation. For example, a person might receive an email that seems to be from a trusted banking institution instructing them to update their password because of a security breach. Unaware of standard social engineering tactics such as this one, the person promptly follows the instructions and unknowingly gives their login details to the attacker. All these factors impact a target's ability to make a good decision or even notice that they are being manipulated in the first place. Key aspects of a social engineering attack. A social engineering attack typically has these elements. 1. It is well researched. If an attacker is trying to impersonate a member of a company, then they will use the company's letterhead, jargon, or format to help build credibility. Not all methods are equally effective against everyone. Cyberattackers research to determine the best driver for their target. 2. It is delivered confidently. In person, good social engineers are prepared and confident, and they reassure targets. Knowing when to launch an attack and how to develop a rapport with the target is essential. Usually, attackers build up a high-value social engineering attack over a series of exchanges, lending credibility and reducing inhibitions with each exchange. Rushing the attack can backfire and lead to attackers revealing themselves through desperation. 3. It is plausible and realistic. The best social engineering attacks are often the ones where the victim doesn't even know that they've been tricked. How can you defend against social engineering? Everyone should be aware of and guard against common social engineering attacks. Aside from never trusting anyone, you should follow this simple rule to defend against social engineering attacks designed to trick people like you. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. So, if you ever face a financial windfall unexpectedly, a headhunting request, or a prize from a competition you did not enter, then be aware and inquisitive. Don't let the benefits cloud your judgment. In addition, don't be afraid to challenge others who make unusual requests or appear out of place. Imagine that an unknown colleague makes a strange request or you see someone loitering in a restricted area. In most such situations, you can ask for details or report your suspicions. Don't comply just because someone claims that an executive from the head office sent them, and they're in a hurry to get by you into a building. You can pause to check. Often, verification costs far less than letting an imposter into your office. But how do organizations defend against social engineering? They should focus on the three key elements of cybersecurity: process, education, and technology. Process. They should implement policies that outline the acceptable use of corporate resources and procedures for handling sensitive information. Education. They should hold regular cybersecurity training sessions to ensure that every employee understands the policies and the risks associated with violating them. Technology. They should invest in security software, such as spam filters and anti-malware software, that can detect and thwart social engineering attacks. When implemented together, these measures can significantly boost an organization's defenses against social engineering. Beware of phishing. Phishing emails are one of the most common forms of social engineering, and if you let your guard down, you can fall prey to this tactic. Follow these tips to detect phishing emails, whether personal or business related. Note that no single phishing email will contain all the signs of phishing mentioned in this list. But the more of these clues that you find in an email, the more likely that it is a phishing attempt. Consider if you were expecting the email. Does it make sense that the sender chose to contact you? Is the message too good to be true, or does it pressure you to act quickly? Check the sender's email address. Is the email from someone or a company that you recognize? Look for the salutation. Does it address you with a generic greeting such as "Dear valued member" instead of your name? Search for any language or grammar errors. Does it have poor grammar or a lot of spelling errors? Determine what the email is requesting. Does it ask you to visit a fake or spoof website? Does it ask you to call a fake customer service number or open attachments that you did not request? Look for the red flags of a fake request that are typically part of the phishing email. For example, does it ask for your bank information or password? Note any language that is alarming or creates a sense of urgency to act quickly without thinking. Does the email claim that the company will delete your account if you don't act now? Does it state that a virus has been detected on your system, so you should download and install an attached security patch immediately? Don't click a link without verifying the URL it points to. Does the URL include a non-secure link? To know if the link is secure, check that the URL begins with HTTPS. Does the URL direct you to a completely different website? Some attackers use URLs that look like legitimate ones. For example, examine this fake URL for PayPal, www.paypal.accountlogin.com/signin. Notice the misspelling of PayPal. Important note. If you receive an email that you think might be phishing, don't respond in any way, click any links, or open any attachments. Most email services have a method to report an email as spam. When in doubt, you can contact the sender via a trusted channel, such as a previously saved contact phone number. You can also access the service web address from your records. Activity: identify common signs of a phishing email. In this activity, you'll apply what you've learned about phishing emails to identify their features in an example. First, imagine that you receive the following email from Facebook. Read and study it. From Facebook account login. Subject: account activity. Date: January 15, 2020. Dear user, the Facebook security team has noticed some unusual account activity on your account. It may be compromised. Please log in here to update your security settings to prevent unauthorized account access. https://www.facebook.com/account/login. Kind regards. Facebook Security Team. Privacy terms, advertising, ad choices, more. Facebook Copyright 2020. Now, list the signs that indicate that this is a phishing email. Evaluate your thinking. Does your answer account for the following? Unusual request. It includes an unusual request. It gives a vague warning that the security team noticed some unusual account activity and asks you to log into your account to address the matter. It also creates urgency for you to act on it. Suspicious link. It instructs you to select an incorrect link to log into your account. Notice that the word Facebook is misspelled. In fact, fsabo0k.com is a known and reported phishing URL. Generic greeting. It addresses you with a generic greeting, not your personal account name. About this module. Module 6. Open Source Intelligence. Introduction. Interest in open source intelligence, OSINT, has grown over the last decade, both within the government and private sectors. Open source intelligence, OSINT, is intelligence gathered from publicly available sources. These sources include blogs, news sites, and other publicly available websites. Anyone with reliable internet access, including journalists, researchers, and attackers, can conduct open source investigations. You can easily collect OSINT without active collection methods, such as hacking or wiretaps. In this module, you'll examine the benefits and sources of OSINT. You'll also learn about the concerns that it presents for organizations and people. You will understand how attackers collect information about a targeted organization or individual using these sources in the public domain. The module focuses on how attackers use OSINT for reconnaissance on larger attacks. Learning objectives. After completing this module, you should be able to define open source intelligence, OSINT. Explain the benefits of OSINT versus alternative intelligence sources. Identify sources of open information. Describe guidelines for gathering open information. Explain the reasons that everyone should care about OSINT. Collect OSINT. Open source intelligence versus alternatives. Traditional forms of information gathering can be expensive, complex, and illegal. Examples of such approaches include hacking into private databases, conducting phishing email campaigns, and designing and deploying malware that tracks user activity. Conversely, open information can be considerably easy and even free to acquire. Example: what if a journalist wants to determine a political party member's location at any time? They can try to place a piece of malware on the person's mobile phone illegally to acquire GPS coordinates. But monitoring the person's social media account might be far simpler. All this approach takes is for one of the politician's aides to post a location-tagged message or a photo with a recognizable landmark. Though this example seems simple, military units have used the same techniques to track their counterparts in foreign countries, and law enforcement has used them to track criminals and fugitives. Another benefit of open source intelligence is that it is usually undetectable to the target. Example: what if an attacker wants to gather information about the control systems inside a power plant? If they try to scan the power plant's external network, the attacker might be detected, potentially compromising the secrecy of their infrastructure. Alternatively, the attacker might find a system engineer discussing sensitive plans on a blog. The blogging platform might have access records usable for identifying users such as the attacker. However, the company that owns the power plant would not. Sources of open information. Imagine that an attacker wants to collect basic information about an organization or person. Where might they start? Below are a few examples of common sources of open information. Remember that many more possible sources exist, and new ones emerge all the time. Company website. A company's website is an obvious source. Examining the type of information that the company chooses to make publicly available can be revealing. It can reveal helpful information such as points of contact, external social media profiles, and building addresses. And companies might mistakenly publish more details than they should. Attackers can augment searches with advanced search features, a practice often called Google hacking. This technique helps them find more advanced information and unintentionally revealed files. They can also explore options, such as the Wayback Machine, opens in a new tab, for retrieving a company's legacy website. These tools can help attackers determine what a website was used for at certain times. Media and news. If someone has already done the hard work, then why repeat the effort? Some good journalists are skilled at processing open information. An attacker is unlikely to find an article that contains all the information that they are looking for. Still, some articles will probably provide helpful information for further investigations. Other sources of pre-processed or foundational information might include industry analysts, rating agencies, and other assessing bodies. Social media. People happily share information on social media, making it widely available. By piecing various bits of social media information together, attackers can get an accurate perspective about someone's personal and professional lives. Some victims make this work too easy. For example, employees have been known to share photos of ID badges, network diagrams, and even sticky notes with passwords. Every small piece of information can add credibly to a social engineering attack. For example, consider an attacker that finds out that a target recently attended a conference. The attacker can create a convincing spear phishing email. It might say that the sender found the target's name on the attendee list and wants to follow up. Government or public records. Many countries keep detailed records of citizens and companies. These records can provide highly valuable information to attackers. For example, hospital records might list someone's place and date of birth, and an electoral roll might list someone's address. Other entities might have public records helpful for attackers. For example, many stock exchanges require that companies make a certain amount of financial information available. Forums and discussion boards. Online platforms like Reddit, Quora, and technology-specific message boards might contain a plethora of helpful information. People often share expertise, experiences, and insights on these platforms, inadvertently disclosing valuable information about an organization's people, technologies, or security. Job posts. Job posts can contain various details helpful in planning an attack. For example, a post might list software that applicants must be proficient with, indicating that employees use the software. An attacker can research it for known vulnerabilities to help plan an effective attack. Other helpful information about the company can include proprietary technologies, upcoming projects, and organizational structure. DNS records. An attacker can use various online tools to examine an organization's DNS records. For example, HOI is a protocol that you can use to query databases that store registered users or assignees of an internet resource, such as a domain name. It provides information about the organization or person who registered a domain, including their contact details. Attackers might also discover subdomains that can reveal the organization's network infrastructure. Guidelines for gathering open information. Remember that attackers aren't the only ones that use OSINT. For example, journalists and cybersecurity experts can use this research for beneficial purposes, such as criminal investigations. Anyone can do it, including you. How do you get started with open information research? As you become more experienced at gathering open information, you'll learn plenty of tips and tricks. But the following guidelines provide a good starting point. Get lots of information. Quantity is valuable. The more information, the better. Analyst tools that search for links between data sets operate better with more information. Remember, you never know what the key piece of information will be, so save everything initially before refinement. Get a range. Build a picture from many perspectives. Not everything online is true. Don't rely on a single source. Someone can easily falsify a single source, such as a social media profile with many flattering photos. However, falsifying multiple sources is much more difficult. Remember, you might discover that a target has deleted or attempted to conceal information. This very fact can be valuable. Don't get stuck. Be prepared to fail, and don't get frustrated. Open source intelligence is very powerful. But you'll encounter many dead ends, and the amount and type of open information on a target depends somewhat on luck. You might need to take a different approach or explore a new area. Remember, teams of trained researchers often need weeks to complete a successful investigation. Note, often, open information is not obtainable. Some organizations and people will not have as much public information as others. Good operational security can be one reason why. Why is open source intelligence an area of interest for everyone? In our highly connected world, people overshare all the time. Everyone should be aware that what they share online is virtually permanent. Someone can combine a few small pieces of information to reveal something of external interest. This process is called information aggregation. Though your place of work, commuting information, and typical evening plans might be harmless in isolation, someone can combine them to map out your life. Example: consider an organization in which 100 employees each reveal 1% of a sensitive piece of information. If an external party combines these disclosures, then they might make significant breakthroughs or discoveries. When designing information management policies, organizations should consider the ATT&CK techniques that attackers employ. The bottom line is that information leakage harms organizations. Organizations must act to ensure that as little information as possible is unintentionally disclosed and made vulnerable to collection. Often, organizations have to make certain information publicly accessible, so they must take caution to avoid oversharing. Activity: collect open source intelligence. One of the best ways to get started with open source intelligence is through trial and error. Try looking yourself up online. What open source intelligence can someone find about you? 1. Open several new, private, or incognito internet browser windows. If possible, your browser should be fresh, with no cookies or history. A fresh browser ensures that your searches won't steer you back to sites based on your previous activity. 2. Search for your name using search engines such as Google or DuckDuckGo. 3. Search for your name on social media sites that you use, such as Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, or Bluesky. 4. Optional: ask a friend or family member to repeat the previous steps. Have them report what they found that you did not and what approaches they took. 5. Answer the following questions about the findings. About this module. Module 7. Technical Scanning. Introduction. In this module, you'll learn about technical scanning techniques and why attackers use them. You'll explore how threat actors use scanning during the reconnaissance, or information gathering, stage of an attack. Learning objectives. After completing this module, you should be able to explain the purpose of and information provided by typical technical scanning techniques. Perform network reconnaissance by using network scanning tools. Why technical scanning? Technical scanning techniques play an essential part in an organization's network administration and analysis. Think about how attackers collect information about computers and networks. While investigating a target device on a network, an attacker might want to learn more about the device's technical configuration. They might try to find out information such as the following: what operating system is in use? What services are running on the device? Are any of the services vulnerable to well-known exploits? Let's explore some typical technical scanning techniques. Ping test. Traceroute. Port scanning. Vulnerability scanning. Search engine for the internet. Network scanning. Ping test. How does it work? A ping test measures the time that it takes for a packet to travel from one device or server to another. A packet, or ping, is a small amount of formatted data analogous to the digital version of a postcard. In a ping test, a scanning device sends an Internet Control Message Protocol, ICMP, packet to the target device's Internet Protocol, IP, address. This outbound packet is called an echo request packet. If the target device replies with an echo reply packet, then the scanning device knows that the target device is most likely active and switched on. What does it provide? A ping test indicates if a machine is responsive and when repeated in a sweep, how many devices are on a network. Organizations often use a ping test to debug networking issues. It identifies a device's status. It also indicates how far into a network the device is located using a property known as a packet's time to live, TTL. Every router that forwards the packet onwards decreases the time to live by 1. Example. Consider a packet that starts with a TTL of 120. If it reaches the destination with 108 left, then it has gone through 12 stages. You can use this feature in the next scan. On Windows, you can run a ping test from the command prompt by using the following command, ping target_name. Traceroute. How does it work? Traceroute is another network diagnostic tool. When you run a traceroute, the scanning device sends packets to the target device. These packets have either increasing or decreasing TTLs. When a packet is in transit, and its TTL decreases to 0, the device processing the packet sends back an error message to the scanning device indicating that the packet didn't reach its destination. What does it provide? You can use a traceroute test to map a network and determine how many routers and switches exist between you and your destination. A router is a network's hardware connection to the internet. A switch integrates all the devices on a network, including the router, allowing for seamless sharing and data transfer among them. Example. Imagine a target is 12 hops away. If you send a packet with a TTL of 11 toward the target, the packet will fail at the final routing step. The scanning device will receive an error message packet, and this message will reveal the IP address of the device 11 steps away. As the TTL is reduced to 1 over a few new tests, the traceroute command produces a complete list of the network nodes between the scanner and the target. On Windows, you can run a traceroute by using the following command, traceroute target_name. Port scanning. How does it work? In networking, applications are accessible externally through services on digital ports. A port is a connection point that sends or receives data for a specific network service, such as email. Each port is assigned a number in the Transmission Control Protocol, TCP, a collection of Internet protocols that make it possible to create and maintain communication between Internet-connected devices. Each port is also associated with an IP address. The relationship between IP addresses and ports is like that between a building and its floors. An IP address is like a building, and port numbers are like different floors in that building. The usual goal of port scanning is to identify a host's open ports. A host is a device, such as a server, workstation, laptop, or other smart device, that can communicate with other devices on a network and grant access to devices outside the network. An open port is one that accepts a connection. Given that a port number is like a floor in a building, an open port is like a floor that you can access through an open door. Attackers want to find and exploit open ports on hosts. Conversely, network administrators want to close or block these ports while ensuring that legitimate users still have access. The scanner reports that a port is closed if the port rejects the connection or filtered if the host gives no response to the scan. No response can mean that a package filter, a type of firewall, is blocking access to the port. What does it provide? By working through the list of a host's well-known ports, a scanner can often determine what the host's owner uses the device for. The TCP contains 65,536 ports. TCP ports 0 through 1023 are called well-known ports, each has a specific service associated with it, and this association is internationally recognized. Some ports from 1024 through 49,151 might also have officially registered uses of interest. Example. HTTP web activity always occurs on TCP port 80. If a scan reveals that port 80 is open, the investigator knows that some web-based application might be using it. For another example, Windows file sharing occurs on TCP port 445. If attackers know this port is open, they might try to exploit it with malware. Famous ransomware attacks, such as the MITRE attacks, have targeted this port. A notable port outside the list of well-known ports is TCP port 3389, the default port for the Microsoft Remote Desktop Protocol, RDP. If attackers know this port is open and available, they can try to hack the remote desktop software. Vulnerability scanning. How does it work? Another form of testing is vulnerability scanning. One of its features is dynamic scanning, which simulates hacking techniques, such as SQL injection, to discover vulnerabilities to exploit. Other standard vulnerability scanning techniques include version and OS detection. Version detection reveals the version numbers of software, such as Apache Web Server, running on the host. OS detection reveals the device's OS, such as Mac OS. What does it provide? Vulnerability scanning is a powerful tool for both organizations to identify vulnerabilities in their network and for attackers to find potential victims. Some organizations run such scans periodically to identify mistakes that need remediation. Example: a scanner might attempt to connect to a server and check if it is running an outdated version of an application. If the application is out of date with a known vulnerability, then the scanner might attempt to exploit the vulnerability to confirm its existence and report this finding. Important note: please be aware that dynamic scanning might automatically perform actions considered illegal in some countries. Scan a target only if the owner has given consent. A network vulnerability scan will often be interpreted as the planning stage of an attack. Search engine for the Internet. Another tool for technical scanning is the Shodan search engine, opens in a new tab. Its website describes the tool as the world's first search engine for Internet-connected devices. It is of interest to both malicious attackers and security researchers. It offers a vast catalog of collected scan results spanning billions of records. People can use these stored records to track applications at scale around the world. Network scanning. Network scans collect information about a network by targeting a host. Network and systems administrators rely on network scans to assess the status and security of their organization's network. Unfortunately, cyberattackers can use these same tools for malicious purposes. Many network scanning applications exist, but the most well-known scanner is Nmap. Nmap, opens in a new tab, short for Network Mapper, is a free, open-source network scanner available for Windows, Mac OS, Linux, and other OSs. Though port scanning is its core feature, Nmap provides other valuable features for investigating networks. It can reveal the network path from the scanning device to the host, including all other hosts encountered along the way. It can perform version and OS detection. It can even identify firewalls in use. Nmap is a command line program, but most versions also include Nmap, the official graphical user interface, GUI, of Nmap. Nmap, opens in a new tab, makes learning Nmap easier for beginners. With Nmap, you must determine the precise command needed to perform your scan, and the number of options and syntactic requirements can make this challenging. But with Nmap, you can simply select choices from a user-friendly interface to customize your scan. And if you still want to learn Nmap's command line options, Nmap displays the actual Nmap command and options behind your scan. AI in technical scanning. Artificial intelligence, AI, has become valuable for network scanning. With machine learning, ML, algorithms, network scanners can perform deeper, more helpful analysis. Scanners can independently analyze and categorize network vulnerabilities. Scanners can prioritize vulnerabilities based on their severity. Scanners can learn from past scans and identify patterns and trends to anticipate future threats. AI can also streamline the scanning process. It can reduce the time needed to scrutinize large networks and reduce the possibility of human error. An example of an AI-driven network scanning tool is IBM's QRadar registered advisor with Watson trademark application. It analyzes security incidents, identifies potential threats, and provides actionable insights. QRadar Advisor uses ML and AI to sift through vast amounts of data, investigating offenses and eliminating false positives. As a result, analysts are free to focus on confirmed threats, optimizing their time and resources. Simulation: perform network reconnaissance by using network scanning tools. Next, you'll perform network reconnaissance. You'll do so by using the following network scanning tools: ANS lookup, ping, tracert, Zenmap. There are 32 steps to complete. Perform network reconnaissance by using network scanning tools. Task 1: explore the command prompt. In this simulation, you will explore how to perform network reconnaissance by using network scanning tools to gather information about a computer network. Select the next arrow to continue. First, you'll use command line tools. A command line interface, CLI, is a user interface in which users type commands to navigate and manage the system. With it, you can complete some tasks more quickly and even automate them. Select the next arrow to continue. Note that the Windows version of the CLI is called the command prompt. Select X to close this window and continue. You can access the command prompt in different ways. In this simulation, you'll open it from the Start menu. First, select the Start icon, which is the Windows icon on the taskbar. The Start menu opens. Scroll to the end of the list of applications, and then select Windows System. Select Command Prompt from the list. The Command Prompt window displays. The prompt includes the current directory, or folder, in which you are working. Currently, you are working in c:\users\cyber. Select the next arrow to continue. Now, let's explore some helpful commands for network reconnaissance. You'll run these commands on scanme.nmap.org. Nmap's creator, Gordon Leon, has set up this host so that you can scan it to test Nmap. But for now, you'll scan it by using command line tools. Select the next arrow to continue. ANS lookup is a command line tool commonly used to troubleshoot network issues, verify DNS configurations, and gather information about specific domain names. Type ANS lookup scanme.nmap.org at the command prompt, and then press Enter. The output includes the IP address, 45.33.32.156, associated with the given domain name. Select the next arrow to continue. Now, you will run a ping test to discover how far into its network the host is located. Type ping 45.33.32.156 at the command prompt, and then press Enter. Review the output. The reply time, measured in milliseconds, indicates how long it took for each packet to reach its destination, and each packet's time to live, TTL, is 53. The ping statistics section lists the total number of packets sent and received. Select the next arrow to continue. Now, you will run a trace route to map the connection between your device and the target host. Type tracert 45.33.32.156 at the command prompt, and then press Enter. The output indicates that 14 switches or routers exist between your device and the host. It also reveals information about each device in the path, including its IP address and the length of time for each hop in the packet's journey. Select the next arrow to continue. You'll now close the command prompt window and return to the desktop. Select the Close button. Task 2, scan a network with Zenmap. Another network scanning tool is Nmap, a command line program. In this simulation, you'll use Zenmap, the official GUI of Nmap. Select Nmap, Zenmap GUI. The Zenmap window displays. To perform a scan, first, you must provide the target host's web address. Type scanme.nmap.org in the target field, and then press Enter. Throughout this simulation, notice how the text in the command field updates as you change the target and profile fields. The text in the command field is the command that you would run if performing the scan from the Nmap command line tool. Select the next arrow to continue. ZenMap can perform scans that vary by the number of ports scanned and other information collected. The deeper the scan, the longer the scan takes. For the first test, you'll choose a quick scan. Select the arrow for the profile list. Then, select Quick Scan. Select Scan to start scanning. View the scan's output in the Map Output pane in the ZenMap dashboard. When finished viewing the output, select the next arrow to continue. Notice that the output lists the target host's interesting ports. Interesting ports include open ports, which are the most susceptible to attacks, and ports in an unusual state for that system. Select the next arrow to continue. Now let's perform a slower but more comprehensive scan. Select the arrow for the profile list. Then, select Intense Scan. Select Scan. View the output in the Map Output pane. Notice that it includes details such as the host's operating system and kernel version, as well as trace route results. Scroll to the end to view all the output. When finished viewing the output, select the next arrow to continue. The other panes in the dashboard highlight parts of this output. Select the Port/Hosts tab to view all the target system's interesting ports. In the Port/Hosts pane, a green circle indicates an open port. A red circle indicates that the port is closed or that ZenMap cannot determine the port state. Notice that this pane also lists the version number for any application corresponding to the port. Select the next arrow to continue. Select the Topology tab to view an interactive map of hosts on a network. The Topology pane shows the network path from your computer to the target host, and it includes each host encountered along the way. Select the next arrow to continue. A host's color indicates its number of open ports. Green means fewer than 3, yellow means 3 to 6, and red means more than 6. White means that ZenMap did not scan the host, so the host's number of open ports is unknown. Select the next arrow to continue. Select the Host Details tab to view a neatly organized breakdown of details about the target host. The Host Details pane includes details such as the target host status, addresses, host names, and operating system. Scroll to the end to view all the output. When finished viewing the output, select the next arrow to continue. Note that the icon by the last boot line indicates estimated vulnerability based on the number of open ports. The treasure chest shown here means 3 to 4 open ports. Select the next arrow to continue. Conclusion. You've successfully performed network reconnaissance to gather information about a computer network. You did so by using several command line tools and ZenMap. Well done. You successfully performed network reconnaissance. You used Windows command line tools to learn about a network and ran quick and intense scans by using ZenMap. Now, you know how to use standard network reconnaissance tools to investigate a network's security. About this module. Module 8. Case Studies. Introduction. Cyberattacks are in the news daily, impacting people and organizations across public and private sectors. In this module, you'll examine 3 high-profile case studies of cyberattacks to learn the extent of what is possible and happening worldwide. Each case study focuses on a different type of threat actor. These 3 case studies are part of a growing catalog of security breaches in the international landscape. Lessons learned from these case studies guide future decision-making in cybersecurity. Learning objectives. After completing this module, you should be able to list the details and lessons learned from several high-profile cyberattacks. Summarize cybersecurity alerts or advisories. This attack is interesting for several reasons. It was much more technically advanced than any previous malware. Stuxnet exploited 4 previously unknown security flaws. Cybersecurity professionals refer to such flaws as zero-day vulnerabilities. Also, the attack used a pair of compromised digital certificates and concealed itself at a very low level within computing systems. The malware spread through infected USB flash drives. A common mistake in cybersecurity is assuming that an adversary cannot introduce malware into the local network if a system is not connected to the wider internet. The malware's authors were persistent. Their targeted campaign continued for months while they tweaked and upgraded the tools that they were using. In many ways, Stuxnet was the definitive example of a cyber weapon deployed to achieve a tangible military and political objective. The incident made it clear to cybersecurity experts what they can expect for future cyber weapons. Los Angeles Unified School District. The Los Angeles Unified School District, LAUSD, the US's second biggest school district, experienced a ransomware attack in 2022. This attack significantly impacted more than 1,000 schools and 600,000 students. The ransomware kept LAUSD officials from accessing their systems and a great deal of critical data. Some examples of this data include social security numbers, login credentials, tax forms, legal documents, financial reports, health information, background checks, and student psychological assessments. LAUSD decided not to pay the ransom, following the guidance of cybersecurity experts and law enforcement for handling ransomware attacks. In response, the attackers, a Russian criminal group called Vice Society, released the data on the dark web. This breach is one of the largest that the education sector has experienced. It demonstrates how attackers can exploit system vulnerabilities and disrupt the functions of critical public services. And LAUSD's decision not to pay the ransom highlights the difficult choice that institutions face when dealing with ransomware. Overall, the breach exposed the need for robust cybersecurity measures in educational institutions. National Security Agency. An insider leaks highly sensitive, damaging information. In 2013, a U.S. National Security Agency, NSA, subcontractor named Edward Snowden released a significant amount of classified information in the public domain through WikiLeaks. He could access the information because of his job role and with few technical tools and techniques. When the files became public, the leak considerably impacted the U.S. and its international allies. The leaked files included technical capability overviews, guidance on operations, and other highly sensitive material. As a result, several business arrangements between the NSA and U.S. companies underwent rigorous scrutiny. This case study is a well-known example of a malicious insider. Though the cost of the damages has not been made available publicly, the data breach is arguably the most damaging set of leaks that the U.S. has ever suffered. Cash App. In April 2022, a former disgruntled employee at Cash App used Cash App Investing to download data from over 8 million users. Examples of data stolen include customer names, brokerage account numbers, stock trading portfolios, and stock trading activity. Alarmingly, the breach went undetected and unaddressed for 4 months. This case study shows the importance of strict access control policies for terminated employees. When parting ways with an employee, an organization should revoke the employee's access privileges immediately. This example also demonstrates why organizations must rigorously monitor system activity. It ensures that if an incident such as this one occurs, the organization can identify and mitigate it quickly. This case study involves Cash App Investing, not the Cash App payment service that you're more likely familiar with. SolarWinds. A large-scale supply chain attack affects thousands of organizations. SolarWinds developed software used to manage IT systems, including a product called Orion. In 2020, researchers discovered that attackers had compromised SolarWinds and spread malware to thousands of SolarWinds customers. The attackers specifically compromised SolarWinds update process, so when customers updated Orion, they also installed the malware. 23. This attack is noteworthy because it highlights how prospective attackers can use trusted relations within supply chains. By compromising SolarWinds, the attackers gained access to thousands of other organizations. Thankfully, large-scale supply chain attacks such as this one are rare. And even though the attack used the supplier's software update process, cybersecurity experts still recommend patching software regularly. Activity: summarize cybersecurity alerts or advisories. You've read several high-profile cybersecurity case studies. Now, take a few minutes to summarize a cybersecurity incident for your own short case study. To do so, you'll consult the website of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, opens in a new tab, a helpful resource for learning about current cyber threats. 1. Access CISA's catalog of cybersecurity alerts and advisories at https://www.cisa.gov/news-events/cybersecurity-advisories opens in a new tab. 2. Select View Cybersecurity Advisories only. 3. From the result list, select the link for a cybersecurity incident that interests you. 4. Answer the questions that follow. Sources. 1. Chin, Kyle. Biggest data breaches in U.S. history updated 2023, opens in a new tab. UpGuard, November 10, 2023. 2. FireEye. Highly evasive attacker leverages SolarWinds supply chain to compromise multiple global victims with Sunburst backdoor, opens in a new tab. Mandiant, December 13, 2020. 3. Dealing with the SolarWinds Orion compromise, opens in a new tab. National Cybersecurity Center, January 8, 2021. You've come so far. And learned so much. You learned about the offensive side of cybersecurity. You discovered the main types of threat actor or cyberattacker groups and their motivations, including money. You explored cyberattacks in detail, including the types of attacks and the techniques for planning attacks. You also examined several high-profile case studies of cyberattacks that demonstrate the large impact that such attacks can have. Learning objectives. Now that you've completed this course, you should be able to contrast the 5 main threat actor groups based on their profiles and characteristics. Describe common types of cyberattacks. Explain the overall structure of a typical cyberattack outlined in the cyber kill chain framework. Identify cyberattacker tactics and techniques by using the MITRE ATT&CK matrix. Explain key elements of the cybercrime ecosystem. Describe common social engineering techniques. Describe open source intelligence, OSINT, and standard sources that cyberattackers use. Explain the purpose of and information provided by typical technical scanning techniques. Perform network reconnaissance by using network scanning tools. List the details and lessons learned from several high-profile cyberattacks. Key points to remember. 1. Cybersecurity professionals categorize threat actors in 5 main groups. Script kiddie, hacktivist, criminal gang, nation-state hacker, malicious insider. 2. The 5 main threat actor groups vary substantially in motivation, resources, and techniques. 3. Some examples of common types of attacks include denial of service, DOS, attacks, malware, man-in-the-middle, MITM, attacks, and domain name system, DNS, attacks. 4. With AI, attackers can enhance the structure and sophistication of their attacks in several ways, such as by automating the creation and dissemination of phishing emails. 5. The Lockheed Martin Cyber Kill Chain Registered Framework breaks down attacks into 7 steps and helps cybersecurity professionals understand and prevent attacks. 6. The MITRE ATT&CK matrix helps cybersecurity professionals identify an attacker's tactics and techniques and anticipate the attacker's next move. 7. Cybercriminals often use cryptocurrencies because the currency is anonymous and typically decentralized, making transactions difficult for law enforcement agencies to trace. 8. To defend against social engineering, organizations should focus on the 3 key elements of cybersecurity: education, process, and technology. 9. Common signs of a phishing email include but are not limited to a generic greeting, unusual request, or suspicious link. 10. Open source intelligence, OSINT, is typically easier and cheaper to acquire than traditional intelligence. 11. Common sources of OSINT include blogs, news sites, and other publicly available websites. 12. Technical scanning helps both IT professionals and attackers assess the status and security of an organization's systems and network. 13. Lessons learned from high-profile cyber incidents guide future decision-making in cybersecurity.